Hey guys, and welcome back to Mangotology, and thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Steven Mango, and I'm an ex-Scientologist that works here on YouTube to expose Scientology. So if you want to stay up to date on all my videos, please make sure to go down below, hit that red subscribe button, and turn on your bell notifications, and you'll get an email alert whenever I release a new video exposing Scientology. And for today's video, I'm doing a question and answer, and I'm going to be answering all of your burning questions that you guys have been sending in to me here, either on my YouTube comments or via social media or email. I obviously can't get back to every single person personally, but I compile all of my most common questions that I get. So when I decide to sit down here and do a question and answer video, I can answer all your questions so you guys can hear me answering all of the most recent update questions and stuff that are happening right now in Scientology. These questions aren't just answering questions about Hubbard policy letters from 1950s or 60s. These are all things happening right now, or things that are very pertinent to what is going on inside Scientology. So there's always something to learn, whether you are just stumbling across this video and don't really know too much about Scientology, or if you are someone who has been following and keeping up with all of the current happenings of Scientology. You will hopefully hear something that will educate you guys about the current affairs of the cult of Scientology. And if you don't know, I was in Scientology for a number of years. I escaped, and all these years later, I still make videos here because there's always craziness and things happening inside Scientology. So without further ado, let's jump right on into your questions. The very first question is, have you ever suspected Scientology or Scientologists had installed listening devices into your home, tapped your phone calls of yours, or tracked your whereabouts or followed you in public? So that is kind of a loaded question, and there are some elements of that that have actually happened. In terms of tracking my whereabouts or have followed me in public, as you guys know, I live in Los Angeles. I live in a hub of Scientology orgs that are very close to where I live. I live within a very close distance to Big Blue, Scientology Media Productions, Celebrity Center, Pasadena org, and I'm trying to think, Glendale Mission, maybe. There are just Los Feliz Mission. Obviously, it's a very big ideal mission here in Los Angeles. And yeah, I live within a very close proximity to all of Scientology's Los Angeles properties. That includes the Advanced org, American Saint Hill org. I mean, there's a lot of different Scientology orgs nearby. Now, before I moved into where I live now, when I was in Scientology, I lived basically where the Grove shopping mall is in Los Angeles, in like Mid-Wilshire area, and that's obviously before I met my husband and got married. So when I was leaving Scientology, I had my escape, if you will, and I basically pretty quickly moved into where I live now with my husband, and I relocated out of where I used to live. Now, when I wasn't showing up to the org, there were instances where Scientology, given that at the time I was leaving, I was on Scientology posters for the IS, I was their poster boy, and within maybe like 4 to 6 weeks of like their campaign of me, I would say maybe even quicker than that, I wasn't showing up to Scientology because I wanted to leave the group. So I had Scientologists that would be showing up, knocking at my front door. When I knew it was them, when I'd peer out my windows and stuff, I would just basically lock myself in my bedroom and I wouldn't leave. There were other times I caught Scientologists outside. I lived in like a townhome, so I would like keep my windows open because I didn't have like a central air conditioning or like a unit or anything for that. So I was a broke bitch probably at the time just because of Scientology, so I'd keep my windows open, and I would see actual like Sea Org members in uniform outside of my townhome, like in like the back courtyard area. And it was only like a second floor, like there was someone who lived in the townhome below me and someone, I was the one who lived in the upper one, and when you look down, you could see that there were Scientologists in like the little courtyard area, not so high up. And I know that in terms of like listening in on phone calls and stuff, I don't really know, I guess, or could suspect that they like tapped my phone calls, but I know that they would listen when they were inside my apartment complex. So I'd leave my windows open, like I said, and I know like when I'd be gossiping to like my friends or other people about what was happening in Scientology, I could only imagine that when they were there, because I know there's an instance I was talking to my friend Jonathan on the phone, and I know that they were there listening, so that's probably where they got an idea of why I wanted to leave probably because they probably heard me talking on the phone and stuff like that. I know that there's other ex-Scientologists and just Scientology critics that when they've exposed Scientology years ago, they would have the power, and they still probably do, track people's plane reservations, hotels. If you try to leave the Sea organization, they send people to do a blow drill to recover them, to get them to come back to the org. So it's not within like a stretch of the imagination that Scientology does track people's whereabouts. When I go to the grocery store in the past, I had Scientologists that were following and keeping track of me, like where I was going. I'd spot them following me on like Hollywood Boulevard before, so it is a very real thing. In terms of installing listening devices in my home, it's something, if you guys know of like a way to like scan with like, I've seen it before in like a phone app where you can kind of like scan around your home just to see if there are any listening devices or frequencies, or I don't really know about all that. I don't suspect that, but I am installing very strict security in my home with cameras and stuff because they did poison my dog before, and they are currently still doing that to other critics and stuff, so I'm upping my security at my homes. I know people might think, oh, you might be paranoid or something like that, but it is a very real thing that you have to be aware about when you're an ex-Scientologist or you go up against Scientology. You have to have really good security. They're still out there poisoning dogs and doing really crazy things to their critics and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really suspect that there are listening devices or anything, but again, you just really never know with Scientology. How is Scientology and David Miscavige handling social distancing and isolation within the cult? Are you holding up well during this time? And what is Scientology's stance on vaccination? And would they take a COVID-19 vaccination if and when one is safe for the public at large? So I did a whole entire video right in kind of like the beginning of this whole pandemic that's happening right now, and you guys can check out that video about why Scientology doesn't really feel like this whole entire thing exists. I am going to try not to use the word of the virus that's going around, just because videos are getting flagged and it won't get suggested, so people won't find this video. So I'm going to limit using the phraseology of what is kind of going on right now. We all know that we're all stuck indoors right now, and at the time I explained on a video within like the last week or two about why Scientology doesn't feel like this exists. They don't believe that, well, basically any illness, sickness, accident, injury is all stemmed to a PTS condition, which means you're connected to a suppressive person or you are one yourself. And Scientology doesn't believe they are as susceptible to any sort of illness or sickness that goes around. Now, with regard to vaccinations, they are anti-vax. And again, that's not a big surprise, but in Scientology, I was advised not to get a flu shot. At the same time that the H1N1 was going around, they said not to get vaccinated for that. I did anyways. I waited in line at the Hollywood High School for like hours just to get the vaccine, because again, it was this big fear and pandemonium about it, and they were trying to say like, hey, it's just kind of what they're saying now is planetary bull baiting. Now, bull baiting is a drill that you do in Scientology where you sit across from someone and they're not supposed to react. And you could be like, you're ugly, you're fat, and like just like shouting all these profanities at them in like the drilling to get a person not to react to the craziness. So what planetary bull baiting is like the universe is bull baiting by putting out all this mass hysteria and confusion, and the media is putting and pumping out so much information, and they think misinformation about the virus and other things. So it's just in order to create mass confusion and hysteria and turning the world into like a dangerous environment. So that's what Scientology basically believes right now. They are not necessarily practicing the same distancing that we're all doing. They say that they're the safest place on the planet to be right now, and they're sending out emails to members saying like, come on in, take a course, like we have like really clean environment to be in during this time. And they claim that they have the strictest and the absolute top of the line sanitation in the whole entire world. So they since have come under heat for saying all of this. They are doing a lot more extension courses at the org where you stay at home and you still do Scientology book and lecture courses right now. So they're advising their members to do that. So that's happening right now. I've driven by Big Blue and they're wearing masks, a lot of like the security guards. And Odo, who's very famous here on YouTube for being one of the guards who has gone out when there's protesters like myself or Angry Gay Pope. You've seen him, he's the guy with the beard. His like germ mask had a little mustache on it, which was very weird, but it seems much more emptier at the orgs. But I know that they are trying to hand out these booklets, which are like these, how to like properly wash your hands and how to avoid getting sick. And I don't, at this point, from like in terms of my opinion about it, I think they do believe it exists. I think that they believe that if you are PTS, then there's a higher chance that you will contract the virus. You can still be a Scientologist and be PTS and get the virus and spread it within the org. And I think with regard to the Sea Org, even if they isolate sick Sea Org members, they're isolating them in another part of the org that can still get contaminated, and there'll be other people in isolation as well. So I just think it's a very confusing time for Scientology right now, because they have to take public health advice, but they don't actually believe in it, and they have to try to tell their members like, hey, we're not going to be operating the org in the same fashion. But then they'll be like, well, so you do agree with the virus, even though that they don't. So it's a whole confusing mess. I don't want to talk about it because it does, like someone said, am I holding up with all of this? And with having like my mental health struggles and stuff like that, it's hard to be kind of restricted and not able to say, go to my meditation class or go in public or get a massage or doing like the other self-care tactics that help me when I am having post-traumatic stress or like other things going on. But also on the flip side of that, I do stay home mostly because I'm a YouTuber and I don't really leave the house as it is, so it's not really too much of a stretch of what I'm normally used to doing. So I guess I'm doing the best that I can. I luckily have not been sick or had any sort of health problems. I hope you guys are taking it seriously, washing your hands and doing everything, because it is very real. And I think that we will be staying home for another 30, 60 days. So I hope you guys are doing well with all of that. But Scientology, I guess we'll see, because there was a pastor that just got in trouble for having large congregations, and I think was like criminally charged. I'm not sure, it was in Florida. I just like heard about it through the, just very briefly on social media. So I don't know if that will happen to David Miscavige, because they're putting out orders saying, oh no, it's just planetary bull baiting and it's not really a huge serious thing. So I don't know. I hope that maybe Scientology will get in trouble for it, but we don't know. How do you feel about the Scientology projector prank pulled on Scientology, and your thoughts on Reckless Ben's Undercover series now that it's finished? Also, why did you talk over Ben and Michael so much in your interview with them? So with regard to the Scientology projector prank and the Ben and Michael thing, I actually knew about it when they came over to my house. I did an interview with them. Like the comment said, I talked over them. The reason I was talking over them was because it wasn't necessarily where I was interviewing them so much as we were kind of having like a conversation about Scientology and kind of educating them, because again, they aren't, in my opinion, educated on Scientology, to come on a channel which I take very seriously to educate people on and just sit down and crack jokes about Scientology that aren't really accurate, or maybe misinforming the public of people who watch my videos in an educational context. I've had my videos seen by different people in government positions to educate them on Scientology, to religious leaders, to all sorts of people who I have shared my content with. So I do have to be very accurate when I talk about Scientology. Again, I don't like to just prank and joke about something that was very serious to me. So again, I'm in a position of doing much more, I think, heartfelt activism, because I shared about my mental health struggles and what I go through with Scientology, and they were just being what I think are just like prankster guys. And I thought when I interviewed them, it was around like episode 2 or 3. So I'm like, hey, maybe they're trying to do like some good work exposing Scientology. And we filmed a whole interview of them interviewing me about Scientology. But since it was much more serious, I know that they're not going to release it because it doesn't fit their brand of being like these prankster guys. So basically they told me that they were going to do the projector prank, and that's what they were raising money for. I think they raised like say $10,000 or something crazy. And they probably made about $10,000 in ad revenue on top of that for their videos, maybe even more than that. So I think for them just to project the word sucks on the building late at night on Fountain Avenue in Los Angeles on the building for like an hour that no one basically saw. I mean, they got some photos. I think it's, you know, funny or, you know, cool, I guess, for them to have tried that. But I just think it's kind of like, I don't know. I think for people donating money to them for that, just to pull a prank, that wasn't really all that greatly executed. You know what I mean? It's like you're really going to give thousands of dollars. Like, I'd rather that money have been donated to other groups like the Aftermath Foundation. Like, if you guys are going to donate money to people doing activism work, like, yeah, you can donate to me, donate to Chris Shelton or someone who are doing like actual content educating you guys, or to the Aftermath Foundation where they're trying to help people leave Scientology, get set up with a home, therapy, to help them get on their feet after leaving Scientology. Just giving it to pranksters, it's like, I don't know, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. I've shared my opinion about these guys already, and again, I'm kind of like about them because I see that they're just trying to be like Nelk. You guys can look up Nelk. They're just like these prankster guys that do like drinking beers and college lecture pranks, and they do those sort of videos. If the Ben and Michael guys stay doing those type of videos, then yeah, that's, I think, going to be their brand. I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to continue doing Scientology videos since they don't know anything about Scientology, and they just did undercover videos from, you know, that they've already posted. So, I mean, they've already did the best that they could. And I think that, yeah, they did some really great stuff, but they did get in trouble with Scientology, like I predicted. People said, oh my God, why would you say that? It's like, I'm just saying it in like a way to look out for them. I even told them in person, you know, you have to be careful because they're litigious and they can sue you and follow you, and, you know, they can kill your dog. Like, there's a lot of different repercussions that you can face by speaking out. They can poison you, they can slash your tires, like all sorts of crazy things. And they did end up going and like blurring out faces, because you can't film in California unless it's two-party consent. If you're protesting and you're on a public street, yeah, you can film them, they're in a public street. But if you go inside their building and record private church gatherings, you're not supposed to, or you're not allowed to do that, you know? So they got a legal demand letter, I guess, where they got Scientology's lawyers threatening them because of a whole litany of different things. And they said that their prank of the Scientology sucks thing was like a hate crime, and Scientology, again, was calling the police on them and stuff like that. So yeah, it might have made for a cool Instagram photo to have the word sucks under the Scientology sign, but again, it's not going to wake up the current members. They're just going to look at it and say, oh, look at people who hate us. Maybe put Scientology as a business, Scientology is a cult, like other phrases that might be better than just sucks, which I don't think was the best phrase to use for this, but I don't know. I wish them luck in their videos. But they also did this video where they like stole a painting from a museum, or they like photoshopped an eBay receipt and pretended they, I don't know, something about like a Banksy painting that they stole. And I read like a news article about it when I was looking them up, and they took down another YouTube video of them doing it from maybe like a year or two ago, and now they're like kind of rehashing this old prank that they did, stealing a painting, which again can land them in jail because it wasn't their painting. So I don't really know all about it, but I just think that they're crazy. There's a lot better other ex-Scientology channels and stuff. With all of the money they are taking in and all the people they service, how much time and money is devoted to charity? So with all the money that they're taking in, it's going into their war chest, which is the International Association of Scientologists. It's their membership wing of Scientology. All the money that they raise basically goes to Scientology's war chest to be able to fight against lawsuits, to be able to buy David Miscavige custom suits and Italian leather shoes and whatever other sort of things that go into the lifestyle of upper management, aka David Miscavige, so he can have private jets and private chefs and all sorts of stuff to be able to live his lavish life and have $2 to $3 billion in reserve. And this money that gets raised doesn't necessarily go to bettering society. You're not going to get Scientology giving a check to Salvation Army. It doesn't go to other external charities of the world that would actually do something to help. Not necessarily that I support Salvation Army because they're anti-gay and stuff like that, but to just like betterment groups, right? And Scientology has like their volunteer ministers. So they may send a couple people to take a photo, like handing out waters or something in a natural disaster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the money that you donate to the IAS really goes to like actual betterment activities for like a natural disaster. They may be doing like touch assists, which are like these magical Scientology healing touch massages, right? Like, it's not going to go to where they're actually doing something to help all these people. They're actually going to be giving touches or handing out Scientology booklets and stuff. So whenever you give money to Scientology, it's just going to line David Miscavige's pockets and keep the lights on at the org. So that's basically what I have to say about that. What is the current update on David Miscavige being deposed in the multitude of lawsuits filed against the church? So as you guys may or may not have heard, there's a whole bunch of lawsuits that are happening right now against David Miscavige and the church, whether it was abuse of children, whether it was kidnapping or human trafficking. There's a whole bunch of these different lawsuits. I want my husband to come onto the channel, who is an attorney who can maybe help to break down and discuss from a legal aspect what he believes is actually going to be happening, as someone who's familiar with Scientology and the law, and what Scientology could or may do in order to delay and stall and prevent any form of deposition. I think that will be the best way for me to have like an educated guest on here to be able to describe that to you guys. But from what I've seen, there was a deposition that was scheduled for David Miscavige. Of course, just because it's scheduled doesn't mean it's going to happen or that he'll show up. And they're throwing all different things out there in the court saying, oh, he was deposed in the wrong address. Oh, he's the leader of the church. He's not someone who should be deposed in something that doesn't necessarily involve him in a direct manner. It's like you don't sue the CEO of Coca-Cola for something that happens on like a very small level of, say, a tort lawsuit or something, right? So there's all these different things that Scientology is throwing out there to try to say that David Miscavige is the ecclesiastical leader of Scientology. He does not deserve or need to be deposed in these lawsuits, and they don't want to be deposed because, of course, they don't want the deposition out there where they have to answer things under oath, and that's going to be used as public record and is going to be out there with David Miscavige having to answer very serious questions about what really happens or did happen to a lot of former members of Scientology, and that could obviously affect their tax exemption and all different other things. They don't want to have to go to court, and they're going to do anything to prevent that from actually happening. So I'll give you guys a more in-depth researched video on the legal aspect of the Scientology cases. How does one clear the planet? Does everyone have to go through the program of auditing? So clearing the planet is what Scientology always says. Why they join the Sea Org is to clear the planet, and clearing the planet is not necessarily every single person in the world going through auditing, because a lot of people don't qualify. A lot of people are crazy or mentally deranged, in Scientology's words, or who've been on psych drugs, and they don't want or don't expect every single person to go through auditing. But what they do believe is that if they put through a certain percentage of the world through auditing, it could be, say, 10% of the planet, they're going to tip the theta 2 and theta ratio on the planet. So that basically means that if there's more theta and more people who have gone through auditing, got rid of their reactive mind, and were, clear, or later on OT, then they're going to be able to tip the good versus evil, let's put it, ratio on the planet. And if more people are spiritually enlightened and more people are clear in OT, then they're going to be able to do so much good for our society and our planet, and being able to cause great effects, that the evil and all the crime and war and insanity is going to basically go like this. And Scientology will thus have more power and be able to take control of the world. So Scientology doesn't believe everyone in the world has to go through auditing, but they want to get through as many people as possible. Why were you so dumb to hand over your financial information to Scientology? Wow. When you're in Scientology, you're obviously brainwashed, and you're obviously under mind control, and you believe that this is the greatest good for myself and for the planet, is to do Scientology and go up the bridge and to help people and to become an auditor and to do what I just said was clearing the planet. And you believe that once it's true to you that by doing Scientology and auditing, you're going to erase the reactive mind. Once you believe that exists, once you believe that you're able to actually have like these wins and gains, and you believe like in the volunteer ministers, you believe in the IAS, you believe that it's safeguarding Scientology, that by donating to the IAS, it's going to put Scientology on this planet for hundreds of millions of years. And once you believe that that's the case, then when they're trying to do these different tricks and trying to get money from you and to take out loans and credit cards, or if they do it without your permission, you're like, hey, there's all this money missing from my account and stuff. You think it's for the greatest good of our world. So you just kind of go along with it, or you just like chalk it up to being like, hey, it's something that's helping the world. Like, I need to stop thinking about myself and my finances. I need to think about our planet at large and what this money is going to be doing to better the whole entire world. Like, yeah, it might financially cripple me, but it might help 20,000 kids in Africa be able to eat today, or like whatever you actually think is happening with those donations. So that's kind of how I kind of like justified some of the stuff happening. It doesn't make it right. Obviously now I know that it was a criminal move from Scientology to do these different things to me, but it's just how it was, and it obviously was financially devastating to me. But again, when I was in Scientology donating, I really thought that it was truthful. I thought it was going to work, and I thought that the auditing and everything that I was receiving was the best thing that I could do at that point in time in my life. Why did you personally decide not to press charges against Scientology for what they've been doing to you? So at this point in time, statute of limitations has most likely run out. It's been at least 7 or 8 years now since I've left Scientology, and I can't just now file a lawsuit about stuff that happened in 2009, for example. So at the time when I was leaving, I wasn't intending to speak out. I didn't want to cause any waves. I just thought, or took it as a personal loss, and I just thought like, hey, I want to move on with my life. I didn't want anything to do with Scientology. I didn't want to utter the word Scientology. I didn't want to ever talk about it again. I wanted just to move on with my life, and I wasn't ever going to speak out about it. When I was in the process of leaving, my husband invited Karen de la Courriere over our house, and she was encouraging me to speak out and tell my story on camera, I think for her channel at the time, and I rejected that, and she was very heavy-handed on the requests over and over, like, speak out, speak out, speak out. I was like, no, 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 I don't want to say anything. And I think from that dinner I had, maybe it was like 6 to 8 months until I said, you know what, I'm going to do it, but I want to do it on my channel, not anything to do with her, but more so because I wanted control of like the editing. I wanted to be able to tell my story, and if I decided not to put it out, even after filming it, I could always retract it. And if I gave someone else that permission to tell my story and to film it, to edit it and put it out there, it may not be something I could change my mind about or turn into what I wanted it to be. And I just thought, you know what, if I tell the story, and even if I don't film it, at least it would be cathartic for me to say it on camera and then put it into like a folder on my computer, and if I ever want to show it to like a couple people, maybe I could. So I decided eventually to speak out, and now being that I'm much more in a place in my life where I'm comfortable. If I felt now how I felt then, I probably would have filed charges. Maybe I would have been, I mean, it wasn't strong enough then. Like, even when I was being held against my will, or they were taking my credit cards and stuff like that, if I was in a place where I was maybe a little bit older or something, I could have called the cops right then and there. I could have reported the charges to American Express, but I never did that because I was an 18-year-old kid under the influence of my abusers, essentially. So I just wasn't in a place in my life where I felt strong enough to report what was happening to me. What actually happens inside Scientology's drug rehab, Narconon? So I'm going to do a whole video on Narconon. I don't think I did. I did a video once about a YouTuber who got into Narconon, and kind of, I think maybe I talked about what Narconon is. I don't really remember about that video. It was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago now, but in terms of what Narconon is, it is a program where if you just type in like drugrehab.com, or you type in anything about drugs, or like a name of a drug, or side effects of a drug, Narconon, or an affiliate of Narconon, or like a website where you can't really tell that it's tied to Scientology, unless you've heard the name Narconon before, you're not going to realize, and it'll be like side effects of marijuana, for example, and they'll talk all about these different things about, say, marijuana, and at the end they'll say, call a licensed drug counselor. You call up, you're calling basically Scientology. So there's different Narconons in different cities. There's Narconon Arrowhead, which is in Oklahoma. There's Narconon Suncoast, which is in Clearwater, Florida, which I think is one of their newer ones, and they have a variety of different ones. I think it's like $30,000 to $45,000, if I'm not mistaken, to go through the program. Cash, I don't think that they take insurance or it's out of network. Again, you're not going to go on insurance's dime because they're not doing, like, say, medication-assisted therapy, which would be like Suboxone if you've been on, like, opiates or methadone or anything like that. There's no drugs. There's probably a very dangerous program to go through if you are on, like, very heavy drugs, for example, and you're trying to come off, and they don't give you any sort of medications. You're just cold turkey, just boom, off of, like, say, opiates. Think of how dangerous that is for anyone. And you go through their sauna program. Sauna programs, the purification rundown, you guys know about that. 4.5 hours in a sauna, 30 minutes on a treadmill. You're taking vitamins, calcium, magnesium. And when you go on this program, you aren't supervised by, like, medical professionals. It's Sea Org members. At Narconon, I think they may have nurses or maybe a doctor on site because they have to, being like a drug rehab. And after you get through the sauna program and you get through, like, your withdrawals and stuff like that, again, a number of people have died going through this program, and they're held against their will, and it's easier to hold them against their will at Narconon because they tell the family members, oh, of course that they're telling you that we're a cult or we're doing strange things, because they're a drug addict and you don't trust them at this point in time, and they're just saying all these things about Scientology and talking to ashtrays because they're trying to convince you to check them out of the program. And we're actually going to hold them here against their will because they're going through drug withdrawals or whatever. So it's easier for them to hypnotize them and keep them under Scientology's watchful eye, which is very terrifying to think about. And they take away their phones, their computers, everything. So they're basically doing Scientology for, like, say, 3 to 6 months, and they're in, like, a Scientology-based program. After the sauna program, they're doing training routines. The stand up, thank you, sit down in that chair with ashtrays. They're sitting down across from another former drug user, and they're doing drills where they stare at the other person in the eyes for 2.5 hours. They do all these sort of mind-controlling drills on them, and it's all in the name of drug rehabilitation, which in reality, they're just doing the first, like, 2 steps of the Scientology bridge, and hopefully bringing them into Scientology after that's done with. I always wondered why they would go after drug addicts and drug users when they're so against drugs and they're so against people who use drugs, and they think of them as, like, the bottom of the barrel scum. And just like I said, it's because they can control these people. They can get families to donate $45,000 to put them through the first 2 levels of Scientology, and they can keep them there against their will because they're vulnerable. They may not have a place to live, or they may have just, you know, they have no job. They can keep them as a Narconon staff member later and say, hey, you know, in order to stay sober and stay off the streets, we'll give you a cabin here in Oklahoma. We'll give you a place to live, a place to work here, $50 a week, and you could help other people go through the Narconon program. And a lot of drug addicts actually, or former users, have stayed to work at Narconon after the fact. So I think it's just because of the vulnerability of people who've used drugs, and the family members don't know better. They think it's helping them, and that's why they won't check them out of the program unless they, like, are smart to Google about what's actually going on. But after donating $45,000, are you really going to check that person out after a week and not get your money back? So there's a lot of different things and psychological manipulation, as you can tell, but I'm going to do a whole video about it. When are you releasing your tell-all book on Scientology, and what are your plans for YouTube content creation besides discussing the cult on Mangotology? So now that we're in this isolation, I've been working on writing my book, and obviously it has to go through a process of editing and getting, you know, the cover designed and getting it published and all of that. So I would say it is April 1st, so maybe around Christmas time for you guys, but I'm gonna try to get it out as soon as possible, and hopefully I can get it written in the next month or so, but we'll see. I had to take a couple breaks because, again, it's stressful to talk about these different things. And my plans for YouTube besides Mangotology is I am starting up a couple different channels. As you guys know, I have my Mango Tea channel. Haven't really posted on there doing, like, the beauty gossip, but I really want to do a channel called Beauty Fruit, which it is my channel, Beauty Fruit, and it's going to be where I go and do different cosmetic treatments and procedures and facials and talking about beauty treatments and makeup and all sorts of stuff. So that's going to be coming out probably in the next few weeks. I'm going to try to film some content so it's not just like one video sporadically, just so you have a couple of videos to watch. And I'm doing a mukbang channel, Mango Mukbang. I'm going to be sitting down, eating food, talking to you guys, and hanging out and testing all sorts of different foods, so that'll be a lot of fun. So those are my 2 big channels that I'm going to be working on. Obviously, my Steven Mango channel hasn't had any content on it, really, and I'm going to try to do some stuff for that. So I have a lot of big plans for YouTube coming up this year. I know that I mentioned to you guys that I've been wanting to go to nursing school to do like beauty, cosmetic injectables and aesthetic medicine and stuff. So maybe in the future I'll get on board with doing that. I really want to try to do more YouTube and content creation now, since that's what I realize makes me happy. So I'm going to really focus on doing more content. I have a podcast coming out called Mango Juice, which is a celebrity news and pop culture podcast. I'll probably be out in the next week or two. So that's going to be on iTunes. So I'll let you guys know when that's coming out. So I have a lot of things that I'm working on. And yeah, it's not just going to be just talking about Scientology all the time, which is stressful, but I obviously have a passion for exposing the group, so I am going to be doing more videos here on Mangotology, so don't worry if you're not interested in those other things. There still will be content on this channel. And can you film an update video on Shelly Miscavige and her whereabouts? And this week I've had some different things I've wanted to mention that I thought were really interesting about the whereabouts of Shelly Miscavige and like what's happening lately, so that's coming out soon. So yeah, this video was like super long. I thought it'd be like a 10-minute video, but I hope you guys enjoy like all the detail and all the information I provide here in these like question and answers and on this channel. Like, yes, I could do 10-minute videos if you guys want just like really quick 10-minute videos, but things have to be explained. And whenever I do quick videos, people are like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. It was like, boom, like the video was over, right? Or if I just give a more detailed answer. So maybe I'll try to shorten the videos up a little bit more, but I think as we're all kind of stuck at home, this hopefully entertained you and gave you some more insight into Scientology and everything that's been going on. Make sure you guys are subscribed, turning on your bell notifications, leaving comments for me. I am home and I have nothing to do, so I will be reading and responding to your comments here. Share this video on social media, and I will retweet you guys at Steven Mango on Twitter and Instagram. I am going to be more active like on my Instagram stories and stuff like that, so you guys can keep up with me when I'm not posting here on YouTube. If you want to follow my like funny videos and stuff, I have a TikTok account at Steven F Mango, F as in Frank, and you guys can watch some fun little skits and stuff I'm going to be posting on TikTok during this isolating time. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm going to be back with more videos for you this week, so stay tuned. And I hope you all are well, washing your hands, staying healthy, and avoiding social interaction. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.